So, I have something before me that I wrote yesterday after I attended the In Rhythm session. Because I didn't feel like I fit in because they're all talking about being a regenerative leader in business. I've never been in business. I've always been in nonprofits and I couldn't find myself. So I wrote this as they were doing what they were doing. I am a self-generating leader, not involved in cultural occupations. I follow my vocational passion to generate networks of relationships and energy fields in community settings where we can experience ourselves as natural, self-generating, self-governing, autopoetic units of life. Changing society means changing our human-centric thinking, our mechanized mindsets, and dysfunctional patterns of interaction to develop the practice of living in process, a day at a time, like the rest of nature, as we shift from being enculturated automatons to living beings, fully alive, fully feeling, freely being, the unique, interconnected, self-creating nodes we are in life's cosmic network.
Nice. You should post that on the network. They'd love it.
Oh, okay. All right.
On N Rhythms Network.
Okay.
Post it on ours too. That would be fine. But I think N Rhythm would really appreciate that.
You're right. I hadn't thought of that. Okay. Thanks.
I mean, that's kind of what they're trying to do with their leadership program. They just aren't very poetic about it.
They're not poetic about it at all. They've made it complicated.
Well, and it's the business piece too. I mean, they are looking and talking to people who don't have much background in all of this. And they're taking them step by step into that. So.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't done the leadership program. I'm kind of like, I'm not sure. It would be, I mean, I've been in business, so I'm trying to kind of like step away from that. So that's not that exciting. Again, like you, I kind of feel like been there, done that.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be around the folks, and it's just another way. I will do the design lab again. When they do that again, I will do that again. Yeah,
I haven't done that, but is it specifically about business for people?
No,
who are
it's a technique to design anything from your life to a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep an eye out for it then to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's emerging? Anything having your attention and interest?
Well, I'm getting ready to design a new class on spirituality and indigenous wisdom.
Nice.
So I wanted to do that for a long time. So I think I'm about ready to do that. We'll see how fast I can make it happen. If I could get it done, I'd like to offer it in March, but I feel like I need to do more design before I offer it.
Do you have an indigenous consultant?
I don't have a consultant. No, lots of books, but no person. Yeah.
Because I've got one. I don't know. I mean, it's not what she does. I mean, she's amazing. her whole life is about restoring the is bringing Native Americans. I I don't know how to put it. She's a teacher,
Mhm.
she's got a doctorate. She's a professor of indigenous history, and she writes a lot about colonization. And she's done a PowerPoint thing. I mean, she does all this PowerPoint stuff. I don't think she has it as a course yet, but she's developing the course, and it's wonderful. I take snapshots of everything she puts up on in the web room. Um, but she's helped me to identify my Western thinking.
Yeah,
That's normal and natural, and
right.
oh, so
Yeah. Where does she
so
teach?
Billings, Montana.
Yeah,
She's created some schools for indigenous there.
nice, nice.
Yeah, her name is Nia to go there. I haven't asked her beyond that, because she told me she gave me feedback one day um, that Native American culture, you don't probe into anybody's business. It's not like well, why did well, how about, what does it mean to blah, blah? That's not the way they interact like we do. Because
Yeah.
I'd dive in and ask anything.
Yeah.
It's not part of their culture.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just starting to make some forays into um, Native people here because a couple of projects that I'm trying to get support with. And so I met with a woman the other day who is quite amazing, um, and is got her fingers into everything. And she said, "Well, I don't do that, but these are people who might," which is why I was talking with her. So we'll see where it goes.
I've been thinking a long time about bringing. Well, I've seen Nia or Naya. I think she pronounces her name Naya. I'm not sure, but together with you on the site, because I've been thinking
Sure.
how wonderful it would be if there were an indigenous presence on a mighty network. And so I've thought about having her as part of the network,
Sure.
but it hasn't, formed.
Right.
But
Well, we
um,
did do, I mean, Anita was on. I still kick myself for not recording her talk. It was fabulous. And she's a friend. I've known her for decades. She and her husband are both consultants. And she recently wrote a book, uh, which just went out of my head, which will come back.
mm,
And she, Four Gifts, I think is what she calls it. Uh, and so we did the interview about the four gifts, and it was really rich and very lovely. And I thought I hit the record button and I stopped it instead of starting it. So that didn't happen. But yeah. So, and I've done some, brought forth some videos from others. So Robin Wall Kilmer has a video on, and a few others, but Lejeune is another woman who has started to really show up, and she's also amazing. I haven't gotten any of her stuff onto the network yet, but she's another person that it would be really good to explore more deeply.
I can share with you what I have received from her. if you don't use any of it. If you are just informed by it, but you don't use her actual work. If you want.
No, it would be wonderful. Yeah. And you know, maybe we can connect. It would be really nice. Oh, just a minute. I have to take this call. I'm sorry. It's about getting the dog groomed. Gloria.
Dogs are important.
It is important.
So, Annie, are you in a different place? It looks like the same apartment you were last time.
Same, my apartment, my home.
Yeah, okay, because you had talked about perhaps moving.
No, all I had to do was change my attitude from making myself miserable where I am.
Good. No, that works every time.
Yeah, sort of. I'm working on my attitude a lot, and I think I've been pretty good actually, but we need to have a new house. And the work that takes, I still am working on. But I got to find another place to live.
Well, you know, attitude's an interesting subject. If we can drift a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm reading this book called 2312. It's by Kim Stanley. What's this? Kim Robertson Stanley, I think his name is, or Kim Stanley Robertson. He's a science fiction writer. And it's so 2312. And it's a very interesting study of, you know, the AI that are called cubics starting to infiltrate the human race. I mean, just unobserved. And so, but that's not the important thing. I mean, it's an interesting book and I'm enjoying it. But what really captured my mind was he made an attempt in this one short chapter of writing it purely from the point of view of a cubic. In other words, cubic, you know, for quantum bits. And that's like the basis of the technology of computerization in those days. And we're close to something akin to that.
Can you define cubic? Because I'm just seeing a square, an empty, I'm seeing a cube.
It's simply a name in this case, because obviously this isn't real. I mean, it doesn't exist yet. It's just it's names that he made up, and it's a name for a certain type of computer technology that can be miniaturized to the point where it can be injected into your brain, and you can have a companion cubic. But these others are fully, you know, man-made robots. And so he wrote this one chapter, you know, seemingly from the point of view and of a robot, a very high, you know, high performing robot. And, you know, and so there's a lot of talk about the Turing, what's it called? The Turing test, you know, the test.
Turing test. Yeah.
Turing test.
Yeah.
A lot of talk about that. And so one of the comments in this paragraph said all of these people could not pass the Turing test because they're just inefficient and stupid. And, you know, I mean, there's just one sentence in the middle of this entire chapter. And I started thinking about that, you know, for Kim, was that a real inspiration or was he totally off? So I started thinking about it last night, about 2, and I came to some very interesting thoughts, which I'd like to share with you. One of them is that Well, one of the first ones that came to me was that the most important jobs for all of humanity and for all of civilization has to do with child rearing, education, and elder care. What do we pay the least for?
Mhm.
Child rearing, education.
Elder care.
So, okay, what would be of most primary value? Okay. Anyway, then I started thinking about, well, there have been estimates as to how quickly the brain can work. And evidently it's on par with standard computers. I mean, the way we process information is virtually as quick right now as some of the most,
Yeah.
maybe not the most advanced, centralized computer, but certainly this computer that I have here. It's just that it's all jumbled. So why is it all jumbled? So I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking that, well, because we fill it with so much nonsense. So that gets back to the robots' observations, that people are inefficient and preoccupied and fearful, all those things. We fill it with that. And so it totally discombobulates the entire process. If we were to free that up, well, goodness.
I would like to push back a little bit on the inefficient piece, because it seems to me that all that gobbledygook is potential, actually. And we don't know what that potential is until it connects or gels or something. And I would suggest that maybe that's where a lot of our creativity and our spontaneity come from, is we're finally making those connections. Those threads just connect that we've been letting float there until they do. So, and that's something that it's really hard for robots to do.
And our minds are totally in sync with this sort of thing, because the next thing I started thinking about is what probable activity could a robot probably not be capable of doing? Is play. And what is play? It's exactly what you're talking about.
Nice.
Right, exactly.
Learning how to use these accidental, divergent thoughts, impressions, and so forth. And our whole system is primed, actually, to those things. I think that's the whole basis of autopoiesis. Is that consciousness is primed to that.
We're the sum of all of us.
Play. Can this robot play? It's totally bound by the algorithms that created its consciousness.
Right. It's not alive. It's not autopoietic. It's not self-creating.
And why was I thinking of these things? Well, because there's a lot of talk among people I know in various different fields, areas. What is the worth of a human being? I mean, AI is coming. What is the worth of a human being? Now, it's nothing to, those investors who just want to make money and think that AI is going to be kind to them in their old age. Anyway, we won't go there. But the fact of the matter is that there's a very distinct difference here that I could just feel it last night. It was just thrilling to sense, what is the quality, the characteristic of being human that matters.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of edge of what I can describe right at this moment, because I was mainly just experiencing it as a vibration. Go ahead.
I can do something that an AI cannot do, and when you said play, that's kind of the field that I'm speaking of here. I just did an exercise right before we came online from In Rhythm. that the nature of, in rhythm, just two simple little things. Read a sentence and then say it or write it backwards. And it felt good to do. It was exercising an unused capacity within me. I don't think AIs can do that. I don't think
Spontaneously, they could be programmed to,
Yeah, if they were programmed for it.
program
but they couldn't do it from their own perspective. No.
human
Yeah.
would have to program it because they're not self-organizing, lot like life is.
And it isn't just humans. I mean, I was just going to add one other little thing. My cat loves to play. And in fact, it's so important to her that once she's been fed at night before we go to bed, she'll cause a fuss until either my wife or I kneel down with her. This is, 10:30 when lights go out. Timing's very important to the cat. We have to play with her. It's absolutely critical to her. And then you say, go nighty night, and off she goes. And I realized that was totally true about children. When I've done a lot with younger children, the youngest I ever had that I took care of and was responsible for was 8 years old, till 18, a boy. But so I haven't had a lot of experience with the really young ones, close in, but I've done a lot of, I say work, a lot of programs, teaching, whatever, where it's been with pretty young children, up down to 4, say. And you guys could probably tell me more about that than I could ever know. But the thing is that it's been a very important experience for me, because I realized that they are just vacuum cleaners.
Yeah.
Soaking up everything. And if they want to play, it's because they seriously need it. They know they need it.
Yeah.
So it went to that this is when it all happens and it comes together. And if you don't play with your children for whatever reason, you can't, you're not home, you're working. I mean, or you just
kids are not allowed to play now. They don't go outside. They don't have anything unsupervised. They can't risk in any way. So they have manicured places to be so that they can't hurt themselves, all that kind of stuff. So they're not learning any of this stuff.
Yeah. And you read about, well, this morning there was a huge article. No, there were several. So it's obviously a big thing that's suddenly revealing itself.
Well, what's the word?
A big thing that is starting to reveal itself as a cultural thing. And what it is girls are in trouble. That was the title of one of them. American girls are really in trouble. They're committing suicide. They're showing, greatly accelerating signs of stress and, depression and so forth. They're teenagers that they're talking about, but and of course the article is just discussing about why that is, but it's just a lack of having this kind of free associated time that and that was the gist of what I would say the article was covering. It's just that they are not. And then they're bullies online, and everything is shifted to online, and it's being trolled and controlled, and so these are real issues right now. It looks like they're coming to the fore in terms of the society as a whole.
Well, I think boys are in trouble, actually, because
I've seen those earlier.
Yeah. I mean, it's not either or. We're just not allowing our kids to be human and children.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to make them robotic adults, and it's not working very well. Yeah.
And it's pretty clear to me that the only thing that robots are good for is improving your profits. I mean, why else would you need a robot?
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I haven't settled for myself that question, but I do think that there are some places looking at large data, that kind of thing, but you have to be really careful because again, it's programmed with the programmer's biases, who isn't aware of their biases. They're just doing what they do. So it has those limitations and those edges, but I'm not convinced there's no person or no reason for them, but I'm not sure what exactly how to frame it so that it's totally a help and not a hindrance, that it's really a supportive tool, which is really what they are, as opposed to a substitute for being human, which is what they're becoming. Yeah.
Well, the motivation, as Robert identified, making money. It's
Yeah.
it's about money. It's about our economic.
And cleverness, just cleverness. I mean, there's a imp of the perverse is the word that comes to mind. It's that streak in people that wants to stand up in the middle of the church and scream, or wants to do something outrageous. There's a thread of self-destructiveness that runs through that I just because I can, is what I call the imp of the perverse. And it
Good word.
engenders a kind of destructive, twisted characteristic wherever it shows up. And it's certainly not life enhancing in any way. But it's something that some people really seem to have glommed onto as an expression of a part of themselves. It's like, I've been hurt, so I'm going to hurt you. Kind of that has that piece in it as well. Just because, you shouldn't have hurt me. Well, too bad, I can hurt you now. That undercurrent that is so prevalent, and it feeds on itself, because people don't really understand cause and effect. They think it's linear, and because it's not linear, so they get trapped in the effects of their own cause, or the cause of their own effects. I'm not sure how to say it, but yeah, they feel the effects of what they do, and they blame it on others, not understanding that it's really self-generated. Yeah.
All of these characteristics that we're talking about really need to be much better understood, because you and I, the three of us have spoken at length, I think, over the years past, that if people are to truly understand that they are something as a conglomerate, we're an individual, but as part of a much larger body of humanity.
Oh, and we're so important. I mean, another class that I'm ruminating on at the same time is just called We're Kin. It's a Native American phrase. A lot of us have adopted it. And what does that actually mean? I have gotten to be so intrigued by the experiment that I think nature has done with us, because we're the most complex biome, because we've been able to take so many individual cells and put them together in a thing called human. That's a unique experiment. I mean, and all of the generative things that come from that are our intelligence. It's not our intelligence, it's all of our intelligences together that give us the capacities that we have. So if that's intentional by nature, if that's nature saying, let me see what I can do with this, then we're really a critical piece,
We are.
of that generative space. And
We
we're
are.
not paying attention to how precious that is, and how much of an opportunity it is for nature to begin to think differently about how she creates. She's gone from planets to people in a way. I mean, a planet is a big biome and it's doing all those things. And we're a smaller version, but still very much the same kind of model. So there's a replication here that is truly unique. And what that could actually become if it was ethical, if it kept within the constraints of life and was still following the prime directive, like everything else, what would that be? And I think that's the experiment that we are. And it's very exciting, frankly, to think about it, to wonder how we could become more. We're so colored now, most everybody, by the Western culture, that it's having to undo all that to discover what's underneath. But if we were consciously moving in that direction, and we're going to have to, because so much of Western culture is going to die, it just can't be supported any longer. And so that's going to crash. So whoever is left, if we could still maintain our consciousness instead of getting caught in survival again, but to think about thriving within that space instead of surviving within that space, we might be able to keep that trajectory going in some kind of way. It would be a couple of generations, I think, but if we really paid attention to that, it would be very interesting to see what happens. There's a science fiction book, by the way. Yeah.
Hold that thought. No, that's your next course. So I was helping a friend, actually a neighbor, do a course, present a course. He's a chiropractor, so he was the main presenter, but conscious aging was the course. So he asked us to put down one phrase that talks about the transformation that's come to my mind over this period. I mean, it was all of us in the course to put down one phrase. And what I came up with was, I realized that conscious aging is conscious sharing of all that I have to offer. That's really what's of value now. I can no longer lift things. I'm not very good at working all day.
I like that.
But I can.
The wisdom piece.
Yeah, it's the wisdom piece, and realizing that is central. And well, it's like, this wisdom piece is one of the most, it's kind of up there with, the way we value our childcare and elder care workers. I mean, it's, we keep talking about wisdom, but by we, I mean, in the general, the mass consciousness, the mass media. Wisdom really doesn't have a great name.
It has nothing to do with technology. So there's all this new stuff we don't know, and therefore we're not wise. They're not seeing what wisdom truly is.
And it has nothing to do with making money.
Yeah.
Making money is cleverness.
Yeah.
And it's
and learning the system.
Well, it's
all we can do is create as we go through the languaging that we do, because we're the only species that lives in language. And like Maturana says, I mean, I keep hold of that thread, to weave it in some kind of way that we create as we speak. We create our reality as we converse with each other, and having having, I want to say, autopoetic consciousness, that we're alive and we're agents of life, because we create as we converse, and it's an art.
Yeah.
And that's why I love being with you two, and when what's her name comes too, whoever comes,
Karen. Yeah.
and to be careful, to be thoughtful, to be
Yeah.
centered, to be aware of ourselves as alive and creative, because nature intended us.
Yep.
But because I continue to hold on to that thread too in the forest. When I was standing by a tree and just said, "What? Why did you make us? How are we different?"
Yeah.
And the sense that I got was to co-create, to
Mhm.
take what is,
Exactly.
what nature has expressed herself as, and do wonderful things with that, do beautiful things with that.
Yep. Yep.
And so I'm holding on to that thread, and holding on to Maturana's thread about we create as we dialogue, as we talk, because we live in language.
Yeah, I love that, Ani, because I think that language is such a wonderful way to look at autopoiesis and that co-creating, because that is what we do with each other. I mean, you can just, we express ourselves, our own who we are, and somebody else hears that and it gets reinterpreted, and between the two or three or four, there's something else that comes out, and that's exactly what autopoiesis is. It's really a great way
Yes.
to begin to understand that process. It's wonderful. Yeah.
I wouldn't hold out for the idea that we're the only species that has a way of communicating.
No.
The language is nuanced and is highly developed as what human beings have. I'm pretty certain from all of my study that other animals don't have that kind of complexity.
Oh, whales and dolphins, they're discovering, do all sorts of things. And now birds. I saw this wonderful video just on Netflix. It's about an owl flying through the forest looking for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the animals along the way are telling everybody coming, here he comes. He's going this fast. He's at this speed. You watch out for yourself. And it's birds and squirrels and all sorts of things are talking as this thing flies to keep other things out of its way. I mean, it was just amazing to see that.
What's it called on Netflix? What's it called?
I don't know. I have to, it had to do, I don't know, because it was one of,
Could you say that again?
oops, Siri is talking to me. It was something that Josh got. It was like animals at night or something like that, nocturnal animals. And it was just a vignette in a whole series of vignettes. But this little piece was just so amazing to see that happen, and you could just watch them talk as this thing flew by, and it's just amazing. So there's a lot more communication happening than we know. And mycelium talk very much like we do. They have been able to determine that's, and I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't, the chemical releases or whether there's actually a sound, I don't know. But they say that the way it communicates is really similar to the language. So yeah, so there's a lot more communication. And that's part, I think, of us becoming more autopoetic is learning to listen to that, because we cut it all out, and so we can't respond to it. We can't connect with it because we're not listening to it. So yeah.
When Fritz Capra introduced, well, I mean, I picked up the word cognition from him because he said all living beings have cognition, and I've found out that cognition is sensory based, and it has to, and all living beings have cognition because they interact with their environments. I mean, because that's a feature of life. You know, the structural coupling. We're affected by the environment and we affect it. But that cognition is sensory based. That's so as the owl is flying through whatever, and all of the organisms are communicating with each other because the owl's coming into their environment, and they have cognition to remain self-creating, to you know, continue to live. It's
well, but they're helping others. They're helping others too. It's not just self, you know, they're saying, hey, everybody else, pay attention here. You know, he's going to eat you.
We're in danger here.
Yeah. So, but they're caring about the others too. I mean, that's, you know, we don't think about that as something animals do, but this is just such a rich example of that. It was just, I'll have to find it again because it's, I have her save those so that I can try and figure out how to clip them. I don't know if that's possible because it's on Netflix, whether you have enough access to actually be able to copy it, but maybe I could play it for Zoom. I don't know. I haven't had the time to.
You can get the QuickTime app on your computer and record it in QuickTime. Well, whatever's on the screen.
Yeah, no, yeah, but it's going to take some finagling to be able to do that because you're not supposed to be able to do that. It's not actually technically legal, but that's
right. For the betterment of life.
Well, I'll definitely admit to speaking too quickly about communication and other species, because I've had two experiences that have left me thinking, you know, for the rest of my life. I mean, one, you know, they're years ago, but one was waking up at 4 a.m. in this forest and listening to the song. There was this great hub, you know, great songs going on. The birds and squirrels and I mean, everything started very gently at about 4. By 4:30, others were really joining in. And then there was a total, you know, cacophony, you know, that went for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. I don't know how long it was. And then they just kind of, you know, drifted away. But right above me, so I was out in the open, saw this squirrel well above me. I mean, it was up in the trees and it was just getting light enough. The squirrel was actually doing push-ups in time to the beat, and it would keep with the beat.
Really?
It was feeling it. It wasn't just making noise. It was dancing in a sense with the whole rhythm. Well, a few years before that, I was hiking in some mountains in California, and I noticed suddenly that the crickets had been singing, and it was at dusk. And so I just sat for half an hour, 45 minutes. And there are these incredibly intricate patterns. And it sounded like, you know, it would sort of, in the immediate vicinity where it was loudest, it would be, you know, very prominent, and then it would soften and just die away, but you could hear it off in the distance, that same rhythm. And then this group would start up with a different rhythm.
Wow.
Carry. And it was like the sound was, you know, covering California. I mean, this was in Southern California in the mountains, but it was very clear. I didn't know what that was, what meant. I've never spoken to anyone, who is, aware of cricketry, but it was obviously meaningful to them.
Yeah.
That was what I was struck by. It was obviously meaningful, and they did it for a reason.
Yeah.
That takes energy to be able to do that, and energy is very important to any animal living in the wild. Maintaining, the energy input.
Yep.
And they were totally involved in this output. And I have no idea, maybe one of you knows.
What came to my mind was a murmuration of sound.
It
What was what?
A murmuration of sound.
Murmuration, yeah.
Murmuration. Nice.
What
Lovely.
would be the reason for it? Just this feeling of community, just sort of unity.
It could be play.
And it could
I'm
be.
already visualizing the swallows murmuration and the sounding of the forest that Robert is speaking about. It's like I'm almost seeing and hearing it.
Yeah.
I don't know why the hand went up on my thing.
It's just responding to your.
It went up.
Yeah. The other thing that came to me when you were talking, Ani, too, and I'm hearing it in what Robert was saying, especially with the squirrel, is how that communication is so bodily oriented.
Oh, definitely.
That it is almost impossible to communicate without having a bodily sense of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, if we weren't in our bodies, we wouldn't be alive. I mean,
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Life is body centered, whatever, because we get in a body.
Yeah. And I think the joy of that is part of what you were hearing, Robert, is just the literal delight.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes. The forest, everything was delighting in their bodies.
Yes.
And we too.
Yeah, we do too. Or we can. Like,
Yeah.
how many festivals have you been to lately?
Yeah.
When I was growing up, there seemed to be a lot more, but now
That's true.
Well, I guess I've stopped going because, there's just, the t-shirt sales people and, and stuff like that. But I still like going to a real old fashioned tractor pull, and the kind of county fair that would, engender, and then seeing all the hogs, and the pigs and the prize pigs and watching the children who have raised these things, and they're so proud.
Yeah.
And they're talking to the old farts, like my age, taking that pride in, that reciprocation, as the guy he says, good job, you really did a great job there. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the exuberance of chickens and rabbits. The exuberance of chickens and rabbits. If you've not seen it, it's really worth going. You have no idea how many kinds of chickens and rabbits we have.
Going where?
And they're all state farms.
Oh.
The state farm.
Right.
I just every county fairs, but I mean
county fair. That's the word I wanted. Yeah, county fair.
Even the tractor pull is interesting because they're bringing out the old stuff, and there are more tractors than you can imagine. I mean, from the 20s and 30s and 40s.
I haven't seen that, but I like dog herding.
And there's that too.
That is amazing to watch. Yeah, they bring herding dogs and a few sheep, and it's the dog's job to move the sheep around.
Oh, yes.
and the things they do. Yeah.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
real thing. I mean, some friends of mine way back when I was building a house for them, and they had an Australian Shepherd, and after work, I would walk down to the creek to take a dip. But this one place I really liked, a little pool, was across a field. Well, the field had cattle in it. And that dog would it knew exactly what to do. And
Yeah.
I had to, I mean, sooner, after a while, I just didn't take him out anymore, because the farmer has the right to shoot the dog for bothering it's
Yeah.
it's cattle, his cattle. So I had to do that, but at least for 10 minutes or so, I was watched in total fascination at the expertise, the absolute, this sort of.
So it was your dog?
No, it belonged to, I think it belonged to my client, the person I was building the house for.
But did the dog belong to the person who owned the cattle?
No.
So it
dog
was
belonged
natural to just.
The dog belonged,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
the dog belonged to the people I was working for, but the field was owned by somebody else, and the cattle were owned by somebody else. And I, luckily never, anytime I went down there, the farmer wasn't around, but I was just aware of the fact that it would have been very dangerous for the dog if the farmer had been around.
So the dog didn't belong to the owner of the cattle.
No.
It was just intrinsic to the dog.
Intrinsic to the dog. It had never been trained for anything.
That's what they're raised for. Yeah.
Or
Bred
potty.
for.
I mean, it was.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. I
that's-
didn't know it was intrinsic to dogs or a certain breed.
That breed. Yeah.
I thought they had to, the farmer would have to train him or something.
Your cat wants in.
Yeah, she's for a few more
Okay.
minutes. We'll be stopping soon.
Cool.
Okay.
It's not that cold out. She's got a good
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. No, yeah. Dogs are great. The herding dogs can do amazing things, and they're trained. When they're trained for whistles and stuff. So the owner can just whistle at them and tell the dog what to do, and the dog knows to bring this group of sheep or that group or whatever, or to take them to this place.
Right.
Yeah.
oh.
And this
Oh,
dog,
it's pretty amazing.
this dog that had with me was not trained that way. It had never been trained. It just had the instinct.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah.
See how beautiful nature is. Oh. My
Well, and
goodness.
that was nature and us, because we bred those dogs to do that. So that breed has
Okay.
interiorized our desires so that it can do that, because it makes
And
us
that's
happy.
part of the design. That's part
Yeah.
of nature's design. Why we are to be here.
Yeah.
We're
We
essential.
are intrinsic. It's one of the values. Yep.
I want to let you know, when you're talking about, the animals interacting with each other, I have a practice of going to YouTube and just watching all of the videos on animals interacting with each other. It's so wonderful.
It is.
That play with each other.
In love. Love
In
is the
love.
other thing that really comes out.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have a totally different, well, let's just say my attitude, again, my attitude about these cat videos is changing completely, because I'm beginning to sense just how important these are to for people to reflect upon. We talk about the Great Awakening as if it's only human, as if this sort of
Oh,
gathering energy. Well, the animals feel it.
yeah.
And I'm glad this is being, propagated. This awareness of the animals is being propagated quite, furiously, in the various offerings on YouTube, because there's definitely a very different viewpoint that many people are awakening to. And I think all of this is working together. I mean, there's no, my wife went away for a week, and the cat usually was oriented toward her. And, I allowed that to happen. But it's very, very interesting how quickly she communicated what she needed and showed me exactly what, the steps that she would take, the processes, what was important to her. So it started to work out very smoothly. And it was important to me because then she would eat everything.
Yeah, several decades ago, there was sort of this pervasive understanding that the earth was going through an energy shift. And at that time, there was also some stories that came out about the animals who were also making that energy shift. So there was a shift in consciousness that was going through the entire planet, and it was affecting everything that was living. So there was a step more consciousness in everything. And I remember seeing that in a rabbit, actually. So that's very interesting that you bring that up. I think that you're right. The animal videos kind of showcase how close we've become. Yeah.
Yes. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And I have
This
to go.
is
Yeah. We've done it again.
Yes,
we've
we
done
have.
it. Thank you.
Now I'll go let the cat in.
She's not there now. Maybe she is.
Yeah, she is. She
Yeah,
went.
she is. Yeah.
Well, enjoy your next week. And
Many
Okay.
blessings. Many
We'll see
blessings.
you together next week again.
Okay.
Bless you. Bless you both. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.